That's where I'm at. I will pass it to Louisa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Louisa. I was just going to go straight into my check-in. I'm Louisa. I use she, her pronouns. I'm doing well. It's been an exciting week at work, but today was the first day I didn't get to eat lunch outside with that nice weather, so I'm a little bit bummed about the weather change, but otherwise doing well. And I will send it over to Shailene because she always complains about going last. But you're not.
Me do. Okay. Possibly do. I'm super dramatic. So hi everyone, my name is Shailene Morris, she, her pronouns. I'm a policy director for the CPC. I've been with the commission since June 24th. I don't know why I gave you a specific date. Since June. Today I'm feeling pretty good. It sun's out and it's nice. Douglas, I am like 4 or 5 years removed from grad school and I just got back into reading 6 months ago. But let's say goodbye to books for a while because you're really just gonna hate it. So I feel you on that and good luck and lots of strength to you. And has everyone gone? I'm so sorry, Erin. I'm so sorry.
No problem. I'm Erin Goodman. I'm one of the co-chairs and I've been on the CPC for about Brandy and I came on around the same time in 2019. And I am, like Laurent, feeling exhausted, but I'm also feeling a little mentally energized. So I'm really excited that we are kicking off committees again and really excited to start getting some of this work done. So, and I see that Reverend Walden is joining us. I don't know if you're fully connected yet, Reverend Walden. We're just completing introductions.
Yeah, and I don't know if Nia or Dr. Howard Gale have gone also. Just
I didn't go. I can do that really quickly. Hi. For those of you who don't know, I am Nia Franco. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor. I've been with the CPC about 8 months. I think that's good math. I'm feeling okay today. I'm like Louisa, bummed about the weather changing, but you know, all good. And I will pass it to Dr. Howard Gale. All right, Reverend Walden, are you with us?
All right. Reverend Walden will hopefully come and join us and we'll take a second for her to do her introduction. I just want to be clear that while this is a public meeting, because we were anticipating that we could hit OPMA, this is a meeting for the commissioners and the committee. So we're going to make sure that we keep that part of the process intact. Oh, hello, Reverend Walden. We just completed introductions. We're asking everyone to tell us about themselves and how they're feeling today.
Oh, it's his anniversary and
sorry, Reverend Walden. I don't know if I can't hear Reverend Walden.
oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Nobody can hear me?
That's perfect, right there.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't bring my earphones. I thought you could hear me on the cell phone without it. So anyway, I'm good today. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone. So the next item we have on the agenda is to talk about the purpose and goals of this work group. So this is the police practices work group with a focus on demonstration management. This is a work group that I believe was picked up last year in response to some of the protest activity that was going on in the city. So we are picking this back up just because typically in the summertime, there tend to be a lot of demonstrations for different things such as May Day. And we want to, as a commission, be proactive in how we are addressing these situations, to get out front of things as much as we can, and working with the community and SPD to figure out the best way for these demonstrations to happen without there being too much conflict or issues between the two parties. I will stop here and see if anyone has anything they want to say on that topic. Lauren, it looked like.
No, I was going to just say too, real quick, it's also just an opportunity for commissioners specifically to identify what the process is for this particular work group and then what are outcomes and objectives. And so it's not necessarily something that we're driving by any means. We just wanted to help kind of set the process up and be able to offer support to you all. So you all would use this meeting to identify like what those objectives and goals are, and who will be leading this particular work group, right? Who will either be leading or co-leading it. And so just to give just further context, we know that last year there was an insurmountable amount of protests, as it should have been, in regards to the tragic loss of not only George Floyd, but the people that we've lost in our own city right here in Seattle. And so we just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to be as proactive as possible in engaging community and being less reactive on the latter end of things. And so this work group was birthed last year and we wanted to keep it going. And so this is just an opportunity for commissioners to have a voice around what you feel is important and how you want to be able to engage with community around demonstration management.
So is it going to be limited to that? Is it police practice works group again, or is it just going to be limited
It
to
is the
demonstration
police.
management?
It is the police practices work group. However, the first focus for this group is going to be on demonstration management practices.
Just a question about work that we might do. Are we thinking that we might want to provide recommendations to SPD early on before we start hitting protests, but then also have sort of responses to individual instances of demonstrations and SPD's actions around that? Is that what we're thinking, or are we thinking of doing another round of review of their policies? Or is that all sort of open for us to decide where we want to prioritize?
LaRon, it's open for you all to decide what you want to prioritize, but I do think those are all three of those items that you just named offer some great jumping off points for sure.
And that was also planned to be part of what we discussed today. Once we had gone through how, like some of the other items on the agenda of how we want to include community members and selecting the leads of the work group, the next thing is to figure out what the focus will be as we start out, like in terms of initial projects or work. And I think, Lauren, you also in conversation gave a another good potential initial idea in terms of kind of revitalizing the crowd control management, the crowd management recommendations that we had given last year, figuring out how to revitalize some of that work and repackage it so that we can really push those recommendations forward. So I think that's something that could be another initial project. All right, so one of the first things we want to discuss is how you all envision including community members in this work group. It's extremely vital that we are including community members because they also are, they're the ones who are experiencing what happens in these demonstrations along with us as we attend. I do want to invite all of the commissioners here to, talk about how you all think we should include community members in this work group.
Well, I'm sorry, I can wait.
No, you go first.
Okay. Well, a lot of the community members that that was in the CHOP don't live on the South End. I mean, these are Capitol Hill people. I mean, and somehow they've been left out of the equation. All the outreach has been to the South End. But when you look at the footage and all the people who was affected by living in the apartments and living close to the CHOP have not been. I mean, some of them are going to be part of the Sentinel review, but they have not been part of anything that CPC has done too much. So I suggest that we do try to reach out to people on Capitol Hill who actually had a lived experience of every day living around the CHOP or being there in the CHOP and know what was happening to them, because it's been no outreach to those people, not too much.
And not having, yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right recommendation, but something that where my mind first goes to is similar to what Reverend Walden is saying, is seeking community feedback early as we're kind of putting together potential recommendations. And then when we have a summary or collation of ideas, maybe using our channels to submit that back for public comment and feedback, and then revising.
I wonder if it makes sense to, we have a community engagement work group that's holding, I don't know if are they bi-monthly or bi-week, every 2 weeks, or is it
Monthly meetings?
Yeah.
Or is it every 2 weeks?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It is monthly meetings. I apologize. Yeah.
I wonder if it makes sense. So, I struggle with the idea of what it would look like to have community members, active participants in this work group, because we need to make recommendations to the larger committee or commission.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea. I think it's necessary actually for us to get community input about what's happening and about our recommendations. And I'm trying to figure out how we do that without sort of recreating multiple wheels. And I don't know if it makes sense to try to utilize some of the meetings that the community engagement work group is having with the broad range of community members that are already engaged with CPC to have that discussion, and maybe during the summer, see if they can have more meetings, or if we can work with that group too. I don't know if us trying to pull in an entirely new subset of people into this work group necessarily makes sense.
Right. I agree.
That really highlights the function of the community engagement. And that's an area where it makes sense, as Reverend Walden was saying, to really broaden our participation and to really do some outreach and bring people in. If we are realizing that there are people that aren't participating, that we could focus them in that committee and then use that expertise for the different committee work.
Does anybody feel really different about that? Feel like having community members as active parts of this as opposed to incorporating their input?
I think we should incorporate the input.
I think
Because I've had more than one comment.
Okay, here.
I didn't hear Brandy or Reverend Walden.
I'm gonna let Reverend Walden go. Sorry, I can wait.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I would say I think that what you're recommended is that there's a work here. I think involved the people and community groups with the engagement part of the because that is their charge to do the work is to community engagement. They probably need to broaden their scope. So I think I would suggest broaden their scope out to
I couldn't hear Reverend Walden that well, but I believe she's saying that she would prefer it also to be community input, to be in the community engagement work group. But I'm going to push back a little bit just because I know, again, last year when we were talking about this and having conversations, the feedback that we kept getting was community members' voices are continuously being left out. And when you're talking about a demonstration management committee and or work group, and people that are being impacted, I don't know why we would separate out where they're going to share their voice. To me, I feel like it would make more sense for folks to be a part of the conversation around where actually potential policies and decisions can be made, and not just an open forum. I'm hoping the CPC is going to continue to open doors where community members can be involved and be able to give their input in multiple places and not just one designated area. That's my only kind of input that I want to give. But ultimately, that is you all's decision. But I want to also make sure that I'm speaking for community members that I've heard from in particular to, you know, us kind of designating when we would invite folks in.
If I could add one more piece to say what Brandy was saying, just for you all to consideration. If this work group is specific to demonstration management for a while, it's possible that you might bring in other subject matter experts, other departments, other city people to come and have those conversations. So if you move the community engagement piece outside this work group, the folks might not hear that. And so if you keep the decisions, the conversations all in one, and it's very insular to just this, I think we might have more best recommendations that come from work group into products that we would publish or send out. So it's something to consider, kind of keeping it insular for that reason. But again, your decision, just I could see that perspective,
Like,
keeping it all here.
would it be then that, and I don't think any of the work groups do this, but that we have meetings that are, you know, sort of our working meetings, but then we have meetings where we invite public to participate, you know, hear the presentations that we're hearing, but they aren't necessarily like constant active members of the work group. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Would that hit what sort of, is that a balance between, for Shailene and Brandy, that tension that you were raising?
I think I would be a good balance for me. I mean, I could envision that. I could see that.
Yeah, and the only thing I like to add is that one thing that we've been focusing on so much around the element, but we have not heard all the other voices in Seattle. I mean, and I think that that's going to be a real detriment for us, because we have only heard the people, and a lot of the people who we heard was never in the CHOP. They was never on Capitol Hill, and they were never, you know, they just had the loudest voices. And so there's that dichotomy that we have to really look at. To make sure that in this particular case, the people who got harmed, you know, was a different group of people. And I just have to say that we have to be willing to bring those other people in, and let their voices be heard also. But whatever way we decide to do it, I mean, you know, it's okay. But I like Laron's, you know, compromise, what she's talking about also, because, you know, SPD, it's reached out to the people in Sweden to come over and help, you know, to help with crowd management. I guess they're looking out to some international experts who actually have done a lot of work on crowd management and that kind of. We ought to be some kind of eye on, because whoever they bring in town, if they paying the freight on somebody to come to Seattle, we might want to at least get them to at least talk to us too, and it doesn't cost us anything.
Thank you. I think Douglas had your hand up.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm open to any of the options that include community members. I think our work and recommendations are probably going to be stronger if we have more input. And I'm having trouble kind of like thinking about what are the scenarios or topics in which we wouldn't or want or couldn't have like community members present. And I'm also just thinking about my work at the West Seattle Food Bank, where we have these different committees, and community members can join these various committees that the board are on and just participate as volunteers and give their input. And I mean, it's, you know, helpful to have additional perspectives there. So I would be open to that. And then just the challenging thing in general about like saying we need to have you know, better represent the community in these conversations is that technically means like every single person in Seattle. And so there's no way to get every single voice at the table. I mean, it's great. The more perspectives we can have, I think the better we'll be able to lift up community voices. But I just always think about that, because like the people who are a part of this committee also represent the community in Seattle. We have different, you know, communities and groups that we work with. And so it's like we can never fully represent 100% of Seattle. And so that just occurs to me.
It's important that we do that, but I think it's also important that we keep in mind that each of us commissioners were appointed to do this and to represent communities, and that we have an important role to move forward. And one of the challenges with having an open meeting, for every meeting, is that it has a, ability, not always, but an ability to pull you off track because you've been having a conversation with a group of people here, and then the next week someone else comes in and you go over that. So I really like what Laurent suggested, that we're continuously checking in, but we also have an appointed, responsibility to actually move this work forward. And so doing that in sort of that hybrid that Laurent suggests makes the most sense to kind of hit both of those. Catherine, I see you had your hand up.
Yeah,
Sorry, I think Reverend Hunter has her hand up first.
thank you. I like the hybrid method that Laurent mentioned as well. And perhaps some attention needs to be placed on where the notice of the meetings are. So if it's in those areas where mainly Capitol Hill people go or see the announcement, then that's who may participate in the public meetings. And perhaps there's other areas where folk who live on the West Seattle South Side that might see those notices and then show up to the meeting. So that's my recommendation.
I really like that point, Reverend Hunter. And similarly to Aaron's point, perhaps, and thinking about Laurent's suggestion for the hybrid model, what if we thought about like engaging community in different ways rather than it being an open public meeting, but seeking, like, perhaps, like, one idea that comes to mind is sending out like a Google form with really poignant questions of the feedback that we want to seek, and then we can use the channels that we all represent prospectively in the different communities that we're able to engage with by like sending out that form and like collating feedback in that way. So then, and it doesn't have to be in that way, but you may be using different formats to seek feedback and their meetings in different ways as well.
Hi, sorry, real quick, I just wanted to point out that Dr. Pinto has joined us. Hi, we did introductions earlier, but right now the group is talking about how to include engaged community in the conversation about demonstration management, how that could look, how that should look, the ways in which they could participate as commissioners. There was a conversation earlier about whether or not the community engagement piece happens here in the community engagement committee. So that's what everyone's talking about right now, just to get you up to speed, and welcome.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
And one thing that we can offer from staff too is earlier this year, SPD was considering changes to their use of force and crowd control policies, and we did collect a pretty significant amount, like hundreds of community comments on some of those crowd control changes, and so we can also give that out if that helps as a starting point.
I'll just add to that and all the recommendations we put forward on crowd control and use of force in the last couple of years, and even before then, could also be a great starting point, so we don't start from scratch.
So,
All right.
oh, go ahead, Nia, sorry.
No. Go ahead, because I thought we were getting close, so I was gonna kind of do this is what we heard out of this and see about moving forward. Oh, okay, perfect. So to me, what it sounds like is that we are interested in looking at a sort of hybrid model in terms of how this work group meets, whether it's, we can talk about at what intervals we'll meet, but some meetings including community members to get feedback and hear their perspectives. Other meetings will be where we're pushing the work forward. I just want to make sure that this is what the consensus is of the group, or we write it down and move on to our next agenda items.
Sorry, I mean, yeah, I vote for it.
Right.
You're muted, Nia.
I sure am, and Zoom told me, and I was like, well, here we go. I just wanted to like get thumbs up, nods from people, but looks like we're all in agreement for this. Perfect. So the next thing that we have on the agenda is selecting a work group lead or multiple leads. A couple of the work groups that we currently have running do have multiple leads, so there's opportunity for co-leads. What I can do is talk to you about some of the roles and expectations for the leads that we've been working through. These are not final, but they're kind of what we've been working through as a team. If that helps in terms of you all having an understanding of what that would encompass. All right. So basically,
Eric, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Sure.
I just wanted
Oh,
to
I'm sorry.
mention that, Laurent and I are still doing our calls. So, we will have potentially more people joining this. So if people are looking around the room and being like, wow, it's only going to be on 3 of us, this will be a fuller committee as we move forward.
So I will quickly go over some of what we'd be looking for a work group lead to do. And you all feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions or concerns or anything like that. So the role of the work group lead falls into 4 main categories. It's work group or work group meeting preparations, what roles and responsibilities are in the work groups, what they are in CPC meetings, and any additional responsibilities that kind of fall out of those prior through categories. So for work group meeting preparations, we would have the lead attend the prep meetings. You would be responsible for setting the agenda and ensuring that each agenda item is connected to the Commission's greater body of work or strategic plan. You would request for any staff support to make presentations in work group or subcommittee meetings or in the public CPC meetings if necessary. You will request for staff to reach out to potential presenters for work groups or subcommittee meetings as well. In the actual, sorry, we've got Officer Mullens coming in. Officer Mullens?
Looks like he's still connecting to audio.
Okay. Oh, I think we've got him. Hi, Officer Mullens. Right now we are discussing the role of a work group lead to see if any of the present commissioners are interested in stepping into that role for the police practices work group. Welcome.
Okay, yeah, thank you for catching me up. Thank you.
No worries. So in the work group meetings, these would be the things that we'd be looking for the lead to do. You would call the meeting to order. You would lead or facilitate the actual meeting. You would connect each action item to the agenda, action item to the Commission's greater body of work or strategic plan. You would delegate responsibilities and tasks to work group members and staff. You urge commitment to participate in the work group in the work, and you would adjourn the meeting and remind all the members of the next scheduled meeting. In CPC meetings, you will give updates on the work being done in the work group and lead any discussion or votes on work related to what we've been doing in the work group. The additional responsibilities would be to check in regularly with staff regarding work group work and any other activities, send timely responses to inquiries we may have as we're doing behind the scenes work to move the work forward, and participate in the standing governance committee. So those are some of the responsibilities that would fall to the work group lead. Any questions so far? All right, now I'm going to ask the big question. Is anyone interested in possibly being the lead for this work group or co-leads?
I think I would suggest that we probably need to have co-leads for this work group because you did a great job sort of discussing the responsibilities of the of the lead, but I think for demonstration management, because we're likely to have some very emergent issues come up, we may want to have multiple people who are helping move forward the work, because I think there will be, need for really quick time responses to come up, staff and co-chairs. I'm going to suggest that we have 2 leads.
LaRon, I
And
can't.
I also might suggest, and people can push back on this, that we might want to wait. You can't, no one can hear me? Any idea what I
Yeah,
said?
we're starting to lose you, but I think I've got your thread. I think we might want to wait to assign leads until we have a full contingent. So people who are here today to think about this and think about whether they're willing to, so that when LaRon and I reach out to you, that would be a perfect time to share rather than having to make the commitment on the spot right now. I hope that's what you were going towards, LaRon.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Can you hear me now? Is my connection? Okay. That is part of what I was going for, but I primarily was saying, I think we want to have co-leads, because I think the actual work in this work group is likely to be substantial and for things to have to move very, very quickly. And I don't know if that should rest on one person's shoulder.
Right.
So that was my suggestion, but I do think we should probably wait to make decisions on co-leads until we have figured out exactly who's going to be assigned to this work group. But if you're interested, please let us know.
All right, sounds good. The final thing that we have on our, well, one of the final things is to determine a meeting schedule. I'm wondering if this potentially falls into that category of waiting until we have like a full contingency, like for this work group. I see some nodding.
Might be helpful. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think we should just plan on it being weekly, because we already know that the next few months are likely going to be a lot of work around this. And we already have a number of issues that we need to address with SPD, including the statement that they issued a couple of days ago about their revised demonstration management policies that were also discussed at the press conference, and concerns that we may or may not have. I don't think we've reviewed them as commissioners yet, but the work in this area is, we should probably plan on it being weekly. And if we need to cancel meetings, we can do that. But
And I fully agree with that. And I would add on to that, that maybe what would be helpful for staff to identify 2 times that work times weekly that could work, and share those with LaRon and I. Then as we're talking to people, we can say we're looking at these 2 times and get the greatest maximum, so rather than just going out there, we'll have 2 potential times that could work within the staff schedule.
Aaron, actually, we're going to ask that you all let us know what those times are, because we work for you guys. So technically, we want to know what your availability is.
Well, it shouldn't be based on the co-chair's availability.
No, I'm talking commissioners. We need to hear from you all what your availability is.
why don't we take Brandy's suggestion? And I think what we can do is we can identify, who's going to be on the work group, and then just do a doodle poll, and we can figure out what works from there. I think we could probably knock that out in a day or 2.
I also suggest that you all consider, like, if you're incorporating community, whether it's during the day, like working hours, or if it's in the evening, like the community engagement committee. So I just want to throw that there. Don't forget about that. Like, who you want to incorporate could depend on when you actually meet.
Kind of to piggyback off what Shay was saying, I 100% agree. Like, if you want community in, it's better to do it in the evening. But I'm wondering if it would be possible to have those particular meetings in the evening, and if there's a time during the day that works best for everyone for working, like we could do that as well, and just alternate times if we're going to alternate weeks.
Okay. That's a good suggestion.
All right. I think that is it for the agenda. Yep, just double checking. So once we're done here, we will clean up and send around the minutes for everyone, and we will, staff, we will wait to hear from the chairs expressed interest, and we'll at that point get this up and running. So we're looking forward to it.
There are a couple of things that were mentioned that I think Jesse and Shailene mentioned that would be helpful to also circulate. And I think Louisa too. So the recommendations that we have put forward in the past, including the recommendations that were put out during the protest last year, the community input that we received at the groups, at the sessions that were held in January. And then if you can also circulate, just to make sure everybody has it, sort of SPD's current position on their demonstration or statement about their demonstration management policy, because I don't think, is there an updated policy or is there just that statement?
I haven't seen the policy yet, so I think it's
There's a statement.
Yeah,
Like
so I think if you circulate that, that'll give commissioners a chance to like start reading and getting up to speed with what's out there, knowing that I'm hoping that we will have a meeting next week because we need to get moving on this group.
Okay.
Reverend Walden?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to also know if it's in 2016 that was never implemented, and to see if that's really hard, then we don't have to do that. But I just think because if they had ever implemented and trained on those, we might have had a different outcome this summer. So, and again, you're talking about recommendations, and then we got to follow through to make sure they get trained on the ones that they're gonna get trained on. So that's if that works, and if not, then it's okay.
I think the first part of that cut out, but was it to also circulate the 2016 and 2017 recommendations that the CPC made after the Ferguson Black Lives Matter protest?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
we have those on hand, so we can do that.
Thank you.
All right. So after the meeting, you all will be receiving the minutes, the recommendations we put forth last summer, the recommendations regarding crowd control from 2016, 2017. We'll also have the community input from the town halls, and also the recommendations that we made based on that community input we received when SPD was updating their crowd management policies, as well as SPD's recent statement on their crowd management policies. Sound good?
That sounds good. I think Officer Mullens had his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Officer Mullens.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I just wanted to add something in that might be of assistance. Realize when we talk about demonstration training, that demonstration training has to be hands-on, real training, not computer training. And that's what we're getting right now in terms of all our training is over the computer. The difference between implementing training and actually having it sink in with the troops who are actually on the line has to be implemented, and they have to be able to go to a location and train. And that's all of patrol. And we're just not doing in that right now. And I don't think we have the resources to do that right now. So whenever we think about implementing something or a change or some kind of tactical change within the rank and file, the guys who are going to be out there on the line, it has to be something that they're trained to do because that needs to be muscle memory. Otherwise, we go back to the old way of doing things automatically when something happens. Just so you realize that. And I also wanted to say that in all these committees and in our regular main meeting that we have, I want people to feel comfortable with calling me if they have questions about SPD or if they have questions about national stuff. Because I think if our commissioners are going to be answering questions to the general public, they need to have some knowledge about police procedures across the country, or the way officers are trained, or why officers do what they do. And I want them to be able to speak from a standpoint of some kind of a knowledge, not to say that you guys don't know anything about police, because this is what we do. But to be sure, or to have an idea, or to be comfortable in being able to speak about it, I will try to give you as best information as I possibly can, especially if you have questions about SPD. But because there's a lot of things going on in the country right now, and there are a lot of horrific things going on in this country, and you need to be able to talk to somebody who knows exactly what happens, or why would a police officer do what he did, or what she did. And I want you to be able to do that, and I want you to feel comfortable with calling me on the phone and talking to me about it. I'm willing to do that with any one of you. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Officer Mullens.
All right. So we will send out all of those documents, and there will be a doodle poll that goes around for setting up time for this weekly meeting. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to come to this initial meeting so we could lay some of the foundation to get this work group up and running. We're really looking forward to pushing this work forward with you all. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, Nia.
Thanks,
That was
all.
great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.